Table on this Jeff Sessions matter. Jeff Sessions with Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak that have become today's controversy du jour because of a Washington Post story that has led for the normal histrionics from the Nancy Pelosi's of the world calling for Jeff Sessions to resign. They were calling for Jeff Sessions to resign before he was even confirmed. But the issue is this. Sessions, during his confirmation hearing, was asked questions essentially about Russian contacts with the Trump campaign and Trump aides. There's a particular exchange with Senator Al Franken from Minnesota, and his response now in the context of this information in the Washington Post that he had two meetings of note in the last year with Sergei Kislyak, who's the Russian ambassador to the United States based in D.C. One was kind of a conversation in passing at the RNC, the Republican National Convention.
Yeah, they brushed shoulders in the tunnel area in July.
Did a shot of vodka, something maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
not that.
And then secondly, a more formal meeting in Sessions' Senate office in September. So here's the exchange between Franken and Sessions during Sessions' confirmation hearing.
And if there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
So he didn't have communications with the Russians, in addition to not having any knowledge about Trump campaign aides, current or former, having any contacts with the Russians. Then in addition to that, in an exchange with Patrick Leahy, senator from Vermont, who asked the question, quote, several of the president-elect's nominees or senior advisors have Russian ties. Have you been in contact with anyone connected to any part of the Russian government about the 2016 election? Important prepositional phrase. Either before or after Election Day, no, said Sessions. The statement from Sessions' office through a spokesman is he was asked during the hearing about communications between Russia and the Trump campaign, not about meetings he took as a senator and member of the Armed Services Committee, where, of course, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, he meets with foreign representatives of foreign governments as a matter, of course, of doing his job.
So you just think it's a matter of questioning?
I think it's the precision of the questioning, and Sessions essentially, I don't know what was in his mind, but you can innocently construe it if you want, based on without any more evidence to show, state of mind, that he was thinking about them questioning him about the Trump campaign, about his role as a surrogate in the Trump campaign, about meetings that didn't or didn't happen with Russian officials in the context of that campaign, not in the context of his job as United States Senator and member of the Armed Services Committee. I don't think that is a stretch. And
well, you don't see it as a transparency issue or a trust issue at all? Because of course, you have Nancy Pelosi and Elizabeth Warren demanding that he, step down. And even Congressman Elijah Cummings, who at first said he should step down, has changed his tune and just said, well, if you're doing the Trump-Russian investigation, he should recuse himself.
Well, for more on this, we're pleased to be joined by a conservative reform freshman senator from just next door, our neighbor to the east, Indiana. He is Senator Todd Young. Senator Young, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Dan. Amy.
So what is your take on the Sessions flap based on what we know at this point?
I think you did a really good job laying the foundation there. Right now, we're still gathering information, all the information that's available that's of an unclassified nature. It seems all we have right now is some leaks from unnamed officials within our federal government indicating we have the FBI conducting an investigation. This is a serious matter. I don't want to downplay it. Russia has national interests which are, to put it charitably, misaligned with our own. They're not our friends. We, of course, don't want our high-level government officials to have a history of interacting in a way that's inappropriate with them. That said, was anything improper done here, or were any lies told? It's not clear at all that was the case. I do think that, based on some of the statements you said, it sounds as though our now Attorney General was referring to his capacity as a surrogate for the Trump campaign. When asked about interaction with the Russians, it's entirely natural and appropriate, I might add, for a high-level U.S. Senator on the Senate Armed Services Committee to be visiting with all manner of government officials. I used to sit on the House Armed Services Committee before I was elected to the Senate. And, I visit countries like Turkey with the dictator Erdogan there. We'd go to Qatar, Middle Eastern country, not known for its human rights record, Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. And so those are appropriate meetings. Lying to Congress is not appropriate. It's just time we get to the bottom of this, but that may take a little time. I think it is premature to be asking for, as Elizabeth Warren did, someone to step down. I also think that at some point there may be an appearance of impropriety that's so great that the Attorney General will have to step aside and leave the investigation exclusively to others. But we don't want to create this perverse incentive where people can manufacture an appearance of impropriety, colluding with willing parties in our press. And so we're going to have to be very careful here, just to follow the facts, see where they lead, and then at some undefined threshold, if we do discover that inappropriate behavior occurred or the appearance of inappropriate behavior from the standpoint of any reasonable, observer occurred, then at that point, our Attorney General would have to step aside.
All right, so let me get this straight. You believe that Jeff Sessions should not be allowed to oversee an investigation into this administration's ties with Russia?
I believe that Jeff Sessions should not, according to Justice Department guidelines, if there is an appearance of impropriety. Now, the question is that appearance right now informed by enough facts for us to say, now is the time when he should step aside from the investigation?
Well, right.
I think reasonable people can disagree about that. I don't believe we're there yet. I'm not. I've read a couple of articles. I heard Morning Joe and Mika discussing this morning.
Well, that's not going to help.
And yeah, exactly. And I just heard, Dan and your foundation for this dialogue here. But we are in the very early stages of learning what we can. This may move forward very quickly, though. So, the bottom line is I'm trying to do what one would hope a responsible senator would do, which is figure out enough facts to make a decision. I'm not there yet.
So you're holding your powder because, if you go down this road with just interaction with Sergei Kislyak, and maybe we should just circulate a document in Congress. Everybody disclose every meeting or conversation you've ever had with Sergei Kislyak, because he seems to be at the crucible there on the Hill. But Jack Reed, Democrat senator from Rhode Island, met with Kislyak this past October. Senators Wicker and Blunt and Landrieu met with Kislyak before. Of course, you're going to have
for AG.
You're going to have. The point is then, can they meaningfully participate in anything related to Russian policy? Can they meaningfully participate in decision making about a special prosecutor? Should they even weigh in? Because if you've had a conversation with Sergei Kislyak,
what did they discuss?
Well, that's what I mean. The whole
why
point.
Not come clean then and just say, look, when I was, part of the House Armed Services Committee, I met with him in my office in September. That's kind of a bigger deal than just brushing shoulders at the RNC. In
Senate Armed Services Committee. The Sessions spokesman statements, they don't recall the exact nature of the conversations, probably because it was relatively pedestrian. And also, during Sessions' confirmation hearing, he also suggested that he wasn't going to disclose meetings he's had with foreign dignitaries as it pertains to his job as United States Senator. So
Yeah,
it's a
so
lot more complicated than Senator Pocahontas and raccoon, scared raccoon face want to make it sound.
Amy, coming clean suggests that something dirty was done. And it could also suggest, just a lack of clarity. I get that. We need clarity. We shouldn't presuppose that something, adverse or criminal took place. But let me go on record. This needs to be fully investigated. The FBI is investigating it. We will, in the Senate, over in the House, in an unclassified open setting where appropriate, and in classified settings where it's not appropriate to have, certain conversations. We're going to be fully briefed on this stuff, and if I learn facts in the very near term or weeks into this that suggest, at some level of specificity, inappropriate behavior occurred or appears to have occurred, then yes, we should not have the Attorney General overseeing his own investigation.
Right,
I mean,
of
that would be
course,
highly irresponsible.
of course.
Yeah.
I want to get you to weigh in on another topic that was center stage with the Trump address on Tuesday night, and that is Obamacare repeal. Rand Paul was on with Jake Tapper yesterday, and he said, look, there is going to be no repeal until and unless conservatives have their say on it. There's some disagreement about what repeal should look like. You're a conservative United States Senator. What's the say that you want to have on Obamacare repeal in terms of what it should look like and when it should move?
Well, I really enjoy working with Rand, and I suspect what Rand meant by that about have his say is he doesn't want to get jammed. He doesn't want a package to be baked together behind closed doors and then passed out of the House, assuming they achieve some measure of consensus.
No.
Did we lose Senator Young? Did we lose him?
It's not a vote.
Oh.
We're happy.
Yeah.
Having the bottom fall out of our health insurance market, which is exactly where we're headed if we don't do anything. So Obamacare is broken. It's an absolute disaster. If Hillary Clinton had been elected president and Democrats had taken control of the House and kept control of the Senate, this would have had to be the first order of business. They would have had to come up with some way to replace Obamacare. And so we're doing the work. It would be great if we got a little cooperation here. But, yeah, I joined Rand in saying I want to be fully briefed on what's going on. And we did have some briefings yesterday working with House leaders. And hopefully his level of confidence in some of the details is growing. Mine grew a bit in the course of yesterday's conversation.
All right. He is Senator Todd Young, freshman Republican senator from the great state of Indiana. Senator Young, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me. All the best.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.